If you're boring, then it's not going to work. If you are so omnipresent and annoying, then it's not going to work. We had like 5 people call us and say, wow, your response was unbelievable. I want to work with a company who does business like that. We also try to set up our compensation models for our technicians so that it makes it easy for them to be honest. Based on what we've done so far, I'm a full supporter of performance pay.
All right. Welcome to the next episode of Expanding Local. Today I'm here with Kenneth Quirk, who went from an HVAC technician to a service technician and is now the general manager at Lincoln Heating and Air, a family-owned company that started, I believe, in 1993. Kenneth, thank you so much for hopping on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Will, for inviting me.
Of course. I guess my first question is, did I butcher the intro? And is there anything you'd like to add to that?
If you didn't butcher it, that's definitely like a somewhat deceptive summary of where I came from. So, because we're a family business, I am the owner's son. So, it's founded by Robert Quirk in 1993. He is a legitimate technician and knows what he's talking about on the field side of things. I did a lot of work as a kid for my dad, and I did do some service calls, but it was more of a fake it till you make it approach than I actually knew what I was doing. I'd go out and run a call, and he would coach me and say, when you go out there, I want you to say to the people, I can't even tell you how many times I've done this. And then just call me and I'll tell you what to do. So usually he'd only send me on things where he already knew what was wrong. And it was my job to pretend like I knew what I was doing. So I'm not really much of a technician. I did more on the installation side of things than on the service side of things. But I took an interest in business, and my dad is the classic technician turned business owner. He figured, once he knew how to do everything in the field, why not start a company and do it all for himself? So his company, he raised 6 kids on that approach, worked exceptionally hard. But when I came along, I didn't want to do that, but I was very interested in the business side of things. So I went to school, and I worked for my dad during the summers. And then when I graduated in 2015, I took over officially as the general manager, and that's been my job since then.
Nice. And how has that relationship been? Because I know sometimes it's like people say don't mix family and business. Some people say that's the best idea. Seems like it worked out for you guys. How did that kind of evolve and where did it start and where did it end?
Yeah, that is a great question. Uh, I definitely have heard of nightmare stories with family businesses. Between my dad and I, it has been very easy. We get along great. We take counsel from each other. We both respect each other a lot. Um, my mom's also been part of the business, and now my wife also has kind of started to join the team more and more. And a philosophy that we have had that's really helped is just family before business, and that can be hard to do sometimes because you do let each other down as family members sometimes. Like there's been times where I dropped the ball and didn't come through when I was needed, and as general manager, that's a big deal. So it could be a reason to let somebody go. And we've had those discussions, but we've always put the family relationship before and just had grace for each other. Just understand, we're trying to do our best, and honestly, it's not that much different than the approach we take with our employees. We try and have a lot of grace with people. If anything, I think we wait too long to let people go, but and that can have its downsides, but it also is the kind of people that we want to be. So with that attitude, it's worked pretty well, and everyone's trying to do their best. So we forgive each other when we need to, and it's been working really well.
How has the business evolved since you were a technician and now?
Sorry, ask me that again.
How has the business evolved since you were working as a technician to now?
Yeah. So when I was a technician doing installs, I mean that was when I was like 18 years old, when I to like 21 years old, kind of in there. There was a time where I was actually a missionary in Honduras for a while during that period. So I was in and out helping while I was in college. I was helping, Um, and it was one installation crew. Robert was the service technician, and I was just a helper. So that's all that it was. Now we have like 12 service technicians, 4 installation crews. So it's significantly different than it was back then. And we were just a shop, crappy trucks, ugly logo, always forgetting to charge people for the work that we did. So we did a lot of work for free, very unorganized, but just exceptionally hard workers is what made it work. But we were working harder, not smarter at all. And so it looks a lot different now.
And so one of the things that when doing research for this episode, I went to our team page and I saw Abraham Lincoln listed as a mentor.
Yeah.
How does that fit into the brand? Like how did that come about? Like what's the story behind that?
Yeah. So Robert went to trade school in Las Vegas in 1985. And while he was there, he thought, someday I want to own my own company. And he said he just had the thought, you should call it Lincoln Heating and Air. And the marketing opportunities would be endless. And he didn't really even understand at the time what marketing even meant, but he just thought there's something unique about that. And so when he started his own company after several years in 1993, he named it Lincoln Heating and Air. They came up with the slogan, making every penny count. We use the penny as the logo. And so Abraham Lincoln's tied into it. That was the extent of it for a long time. It was just the penny on the logo. But in 2008, when the economy crashed, we fortunately kind of got on with a government contract for low income housing. So we did a lot of work for the government during that time. But we were looking at it saying, eventually this is going to go away. And what are we going to do then? We've been doing jobs for the government for so long. We're not going to have a name in the community. No one's going to know who we are when this finishes. So we started doing radio ads, and we came up with a unique approach for radio ads. Um, you know, we've never been able to compete just dollar for dollar in advertising. Even now, we're gonna hit 10 million this year, and so we're not a small company, we're not a huge company either, but we have a decent marketing fund. But even then, the companies in our area have all been purchased by private equity, and
Yeah.
there's just so much money flying around for marketing that even now that we're bigger, we can't compete dollar for dollar. So we came up with this idea that in our radio commercials, we would spend the first 30 seconds telling a story about Abraham Lincoln. And then in the second half of it, we would tie that story into some kind of uh, comment about Lincoln Heating and Air, and then we end every single commercial with, "This has been a penny for your thoughts, presented by Lincoln Heating and Air."
I like
And
that.
that worked really well. It took a while. You don't immediately with something like that see a huge return, but now every week we hear people mention, "Oh my gosh, we hear your radio ads. We love your radio ads." And Robert has done most of the radio ads. I've started to do some of them, but Robert will literally get stopped in the grocery store, and people will be like, Are you the voice of the Abraham Lincoln stories?" And people just really connected with them because it's an entertainment value. Our philosophy has been, if we can pay you for your time in the form of entertainment, then you come away with a positive feeling about our commercials. There's commercials, of course, where you remember it, but I sometimes am like, I will never go to that place just because I hate their commercials so much. I hear it all the time. I will never go there because I can't get them out of my head.
Yeah.
But I think we avoid that for the most part by being entertaining. Some of the stories are meaningful. Some of them are just interesting history facts. Some of them are hilarious. So we tell stories along with it. So that's worked really well on the video end as far as establishing Abraham Lincoln. Now we've started doing billboards. We put a picture of Abraham Lincoln's face up there wearing one of our hats. In the summertime, we put up an ad. It's got Abraham Lincoln in green sunglasses, and it says "Keep it cool" with our logo next to it.
Like
So
that.
it's been fun to just pull Abraham Lincoln into it, and we kind of use him as a branding. And like on our website, we have Abraham Lincoln there as a mentor. So yeah, we've been leaning into that more and more to try and bring it into other genres outside of radio.
How long and how much money, like roughly, was spent before you guys actually saw the return on investment from those radio ads and like the message?
Yeah. So something I've noticed with it. So I wasn't directly involved with it when they first rolled them out. So I don't have as good of a feeling about it of how it went back then. And we also in 2008 we didn't have a CRM. We were just handwritten everything. So and there was no marketing information coming back. So it was just like, what did they hear? Um, it wasn't an immediate thing. As I've become involved with it, what I've noticed is whenever I roll out a new radio station, I don't really see a difference for like the first year. Um, but then people on that radio station have heard it now for a long time. And that second year, I start to see it a lot more. So I've just noticed that as we've increased our radio, we've increased it kind of chunks at a time. And I have noticed an increase. And radio can be a little bit different because it's a branding effort too. It's a little bit harder to get direct attribution. Um, but what I've told the ladies in our office is whenever someone calls in, we're asking them, hey, how did you hear about us? And we try and go back as far as we can. So, they called in on this phone number, but how did you hear about us? Unless it's a direct marketing phone number, I'm trying to get back to where did you hear about us? Oh, you saw us on Yelp? Well, why did you look us up on Yelp? And a lot of times that gets back to radio. So
Huh.
even with the difficulty of direct attribution for radio, our radio spend usually has a good ROI, like at least a break even ROI on the radio, even though it's more of a branding approach than an actual like direct attribution marketing model. So
Definitely.
I think that's pretty rare with radio ads.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot
That's
of
why
people
a
get
lot of
turned off by it because it's you can't, directly attribute it. People aren't like hearing the ad and then calling it directly. It's kind of that, planting a seed in the back of their mind. And then when they do
Mhm.
have an issue or need plumbing services, then they go to the internet and they see you guys and they're like, oh, I already know this person. Do you
Yes.
think too many business owners don't understand the level of time and consistency that it takes to succeed in radio? Because you mentioned it takes about a year, or you guys saw it took about a year. I feel like a lot of business owners either don't understand or they're not patient enough. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I would say there's several things that come up that can be issues with it. One is if you're boring, then it's not going to work. If you are so omnipresent and annoying, then it's not going to work. And if you it and so like you need to record fresh ads occasionally. Don't just run the same ad for a year. It's not a set and forget thing. You can't just do it and never think about it again. It takes a lot of effort. Um, it takes some time for people to start to be familiar with you. I would say this pro tip: talk radio by far the best option. The feedback we get from talk radio stations in our area, there's two talk radio stations that we're on. We get as much from the two talk radio stations as we do from everything else. So if you're going to start somewhere, I'd recommend talk radio. I'd also say make a memorable ad. If it's just, some people think a jingle is memorable, and it is, but it can also just annoy the heck out of people. So change it up, try and come up with something creative. If you're just, I've heard a lot said about the story brand, and that is, I mean, people who know a lot more about these things than me are all 100% behind that story brand. But if you can create a story that's unique beyond like, here's the story of me and my dad, the story I just told you guys at the beginning. Like I could do the story brand based on me and my dad. We've been doing this for a long time, and here we are in Reno, and call us. We're local, and I grew up doing installs with my dad. Yeah, that's great, but that's starting to become so common that it's almost, difference better than better.
Yeah.
And so try and come up with something different in your approach to radio ads that will be memorable. And then you can compete not just on spend, but if you're that much more memorable, you stick faster, so it's going to work faster. You can we don't spend as much on radio as our competitors, but I guarantee you people know us as much as they know them. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I answered all the questions you had there, but
Definitely.
those would be my tips on how to do radio.
Why do you think talk radio, from what you've seen, is more effective than other like radio platforms?
I I have some theories. I think one thing is that when people are listening to talk radio, they're less likely to change the station. When it's just music, there's a bunch of different music stations that you can go to. And people who are on talk radio are also going to tend to be a better audience. They're going to be a little bit older. They're going to be usually a little more affluent. Um, and so I think the audience is a little better, and then the attitude of listening to the station. You're following a conversation. You're not just looking, seeking entertainment. So I think that's why it works better.
I love that. What other marketing or advertising platforms have you guys seen success with?
So radio's kind of been our classic one, but we've also started doing some direct mail stuff. We're in a magazine now called the Home Mag, and we use Valpak. I started doing those based on recommendations I heard in these groups, and they've worked really well for us. I remember when I was talking to the Valpak rep, he said, "I'm really excited to have you guys join us because you have a good brand already. Valpak direct mail usually works best when you already have a little bit of an established brand." So I've also heard that using direct mail is a great branding approach. So I'm not really sure which one comes first, the chicken or the egg, but that was feedback I got from the Valpak guy, and Valpak has definitely been worth it for us. I've heard a lot of people say Valpak just doesn't work. Maybe that's what the difference is. Our brand is already pretty established through the radio ads in our vehicles. Um, and just we've been in the area for a very long time, since 1993. So we've got a fairly well established base of people who know who we are, and also we have a very good reputation. We fight very hard to keep it. Like our Yelp reviews are better than anyone in our area. We've got a lot of 5-star reviews on Google. So I think the better your brand, the better all of those things work. So I will say this: we've started jumping into billboards a little bit too now, and we've tried to make them entertaining, and we try and change them up too. A lot of people put it like a set and forget billboard, and I've heard of companies having tremendous success with that. So I don't think it's the only way to do it. But if you're trying to compete against somebody bigger than you with less money, I think keeping it fresh and keeping it memorable is a good way to go about it. So um, yeah, we try and change up the billboards once per quarter, and we try and always put something humorous on there, but not too busy. Like, keep it cool with our logo and a picture of Abraham Lincoln. It's pretty simple. We don't want to get too much stuff on a billboard because people don't have that much time to read it.
Yeah. Um, what have you seen work with Valpak? And how often do you change the offer, copy, creative strategy around that?
Yeah, that's a great point also. Basically, what I'm worried about is becoming stale in everything that I do. So I do run most of the marketing around here, and with the Valpak, I put different pictures for different seasons. I put different offers for different seasons. I try to get it to the point where it can be automated by season. So it changes 4 times a year. The offers change 4 times a year. The pictures change 4 times a year. With that, sorry, with Valpak, the design is like the general layout's kind of the same, but it's because it's just kind of a small coupon. There's not a lot of wiggle room in the design. But with the home mag, we got a full page in the magazine, and I have a completely different look. same general color scheme, it's still our brand, but I have a different design for each season. And we're almost the only ones who do that. If you look through a home magazine, they rarely change. Almost all of the advertisements in there are the same every single time. So I just, like I said, I always try and keep it from getting stale. You stand out more when you don't do the same thing every time, but it does have to have consistency.
Have you seen ROI from Home Mag?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Valpak for us has been a little bit higher volume, but it costs a little bit more than the Home Mag. They actually are almost always, so we use Service Titan. They're almost always right next to each other in my whole dashboard in the marketing of, how much money have they brought in, how many leads, stuff like that. I'll say this, they're not it's not like a world changer. I don't get 25% of my revenue from that or something like that, but it's enough for me to keep, two of my 12 service technicians busy. So I mean, that's a big difference. So
Um, Aside from any paid advertising or marketing, are you guys doing anything on the organic side, whether it's like referral programs? Like how are you driving or moving that needle?
yeah, good question. I don't think we do a very good job of it on that side. Um, we do have we do get a lot of referrals, but I don't have a specific reward system for it. There's some simple, like everyone should be putting stickers on every piece of equipment that they service, and that drives growth organically pretty well. Um, I will say, making sure to kind of protect your reputation on places like Nextdoor. We try and keep an eye on that. Uh, we had an interesting experience with a lady who came after us on Nextdoor, really just hammering us. And I had I had talked to her personally on the phone, trying to make things right. I had like really tried to work things out with this lady, and so I went on Nextdoor and I just responded to her post, and I laid out the whole story of what had happened. Always 100% respectful. I never fight with anybody. I always 100% admit where we've been wrong. I always offer what we can do to make it right. And so I just explained to the public kind of what had happened. Well, then she immediately took down the post after I responded it. So I just went in and posted and said, "Hey, and I know there's been a lot of buzz about this. It happened with Lincoln Heating and Air. I just wanted to post the story here because it got removed after I responded." We had like 5 people call us and say, "Wow, your response was unbelievable.
I was about to say that.
I want to work with a company who does business like that."
Yeah.
So I would say, protecting your reputation on places like that doesn't mean going on the defensive. It means going on the offensive to show this is how far we've gone to try and take care of this person, and then go over and above, and that pays dividends in the end. Sometimes I have a moral dilemma with it because I'm like, the person who complains the most gets the best treatment.
Yeah,
And
I feel that.
that's frustrating. Sometimes I'm like, man, this guy's a real jerk. And like, I don't want to go above and beyond to help him out. I kind of want to tell him, look, get lost, fine, go buy from my competitor and use up all their time. But in the end, it definitely pays dividends to take care of people. And I'm not saying you can't put people on a list like a do not serve list. We do that, but I always try and take care of them first. And a line we love to use is, uh, "Listen, sir, before we get started, I just want to let you know the outcome that I'm looking for is for you to be 100% happy and feel like we have made every penny count. That's where I want to get to. So whatever it takes for us to get there, that's where we're going to end up." And that kind of reassures people you're not there to argue with them. You're there to try and give them what they want. So.
Love that. So we talked a lot about marketing, acquiring customers, how to handle bad customers. What about internally with employees? How have you set up your company culture to kind of keep the brand the same on an internal level?
I mean, one of the things is we try very hard to be honest always. We're Lincoln Heating and Air. Like, As soon as there's a reputation out there that we're not honest, then we're like the biggest hypocrites on earth, and that would be catastrophic. So we try exceptionally hard to be honest always. Um, and we also try to set up our compensation models for our technicians so that it makes it easy for them to be honest. Um, I heard a phrase one time. Somebody said, "Keep honest people honest." Like you want to set up systems that make it so that keep honest people honest. I think a lot of people, myself included, given an opportunity in a gray area, kind of will start to take advantage of that. But if you minimize that, then it minimizes that outcome. So what am I talking about? Here's an example. When we send technicians out on maintenance, so our service technicians are on performance pay. We charge $129 for performance, and they get a certain percentage of that. Well, if they get a percentage of $129, that's not very much money. We want them to take like an hour and a half to do a maintenance. So, in order for them to not have to sell something and come up with a fake repair, we, of course, if there's a legitimate repair to make, we want them to make a legitimate repair, but we would never want them to make something up. So we pay them on a maintenance always an hour and a half. You have the time that you need to go and take care of it. And then, if all you ever did was sell 129, well, then we need to do some coaching. But also, if sometimes you just sell the 129, you don't have to go home and look your wife in the eyes and be like, "Oh yeah, I made $20 on this call today." Like you're gonna be able to take care of yourself and your family. You don't need to make something up. So that's kind of an example of what I'm saying. We try very hard to make sure our technicians are taken care of. Another big thing with our taxes, we have gone full bore into we are going to pay better than anyone. We're going to have the best benefits, and that means we're going to have the best technicians also. It also means we're going to charge the most, but we're going to have the best techs. We're going to have the best benefits. So we doubled our vacation time. We um, pay 75% of the insurance for the employees' health insurance. We added vacation days, we added sick days. We just did so much to make it a better package for the employees. We pay for their tools. So I know there's a lot of companies that do these things now, but we were just way behind the game on that. We had a kind of a weak package, but now we have a very strong one. And now with performance pay also, that's a huge thing that the right technicians want to see. So those are some things internally that we focus on that have moved the needle for us recently.
Have you made any
Um,
mistakes with performance pay before finding
sorry,
this?
well, one more time.
Have you made any mistakes with performance pay? Because it sounds like now you have it figured out, but have you like built out any systems and it was a complete fail?
I haven't had a complete fail, but we've definitely had bumps in the road. Um, One thing we've done that has made it pretty smooth is we did not just say, "All right, guys, congratulations, you're on performance pay now." We did a 90-day test period. I've heard a lot of people recommend testing it with one technician first and then rolling it out to everybody. I do think that's a good idea, but we were a little bit too impatient. We were just like, we're just doing it. So we started the performance pay model, and we started it in service. We gave them 90 days where they would get whatever was higher, performance pay or their hourly rate. And in service, it worked really well. Most of the guys were winning right away on performance pay. There's a few guys where it just took a little bit of kind of reminding them to stop doing work for free kind of stuff. And a little bit of encouragement, like, hey, don't be afraid to charge what you're worth. You are worth it. Before that, we had guys who were doing a lot of extra work without charging. So, but on performance pay, they don't make any money if they don't charge. So that was uncomfortable for some of the guys, but all of them have gratitude. We had one guy, the guy who had the hardest time on performance pay when we first started it, came to us about a month after and said, "Thank you so much for doing this. I have learned so much about how business works and about the cost of materials and about the cost of labor and everything that goes into a job and why I need to charge. And he just felt like his eyes were open to it. So that with service, it went very smoothly. We rolled it out with our installers. Um, and this one's actually pretty recent. The installers are the most recent ones that we did. And the timing was a little bit rough. We went into the beginning of this year rolling out performance pay, and the we had a manager quit at the same time. And this manager was the one who did all of the bonuses at that point. So we were like, we're just going to pull the trigger. We're just going to start performance pay now. Looking back on it, what I would say we learned from that experience is if you're starting performance pay, don't start it at the most difficult time of the year for them to win on it. We made it almost all the way to the busy season, but just recently we lost two guys who just kind of finally lost their patience and lost their hope in it. Um, the rest of the guys are doing really well, and they're starting to see the benefits of it, and they're starting to make a lot more than they were. Um, and so I think it's going to be a great thing in the end. But that would be my piece of advice. You know, there's a book by John Maxwell called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and one of them is the law of timing. And I would say we definitely broke the law of timing. Implement it when it's easy for them to win, not when it's hard for them to win. And we also did it with our estimators. That one wasn't as difficult. It was pretty clear if they sold, they were going to make more money, and so they were on board with it for the most part. Um, and then we're starting to implement it with our CSRs. So we're kind of in the middle of that one. So I'll have to let you know how it goes later. Based
Like,
on what we've done so far, I'm a full supporter of performance pay and giving them that transition period. It definitely makes people nervous, but we did not lose a single service technician due to switching to performance pay. And I've heard horror stories of people losing all of their technicians when they switched to performance pay. I will say this, they were winning on it. It wasn't like they were taking a pay cut. So that makes it pretty easy. But people do get nervous, and giving them time to figure it out helps solve that problem.
how do you attract A players and then identify them once you're in a conversation with them and then retain them once they're working for you?
I think performance pay is a big part of that. Guys who are A players want to know that there's not a ceiling on how much they can make. Um, I will say this right now, we're kind of in the middle of developing our hiring process. We have landed some amazing guys, but it's more been luck than it has like we did something specific. We have developed some guys. We're building out our training center. We've started to bring some guys in. We've had a few guys who've come up from warehouse into the field and who are doing great. But that's not really been an area where we've killed it so far. Uh, but we're working on it. We're building the training center so that we can bring in guys based on attitude, teach them the skills, teach them the sales, and go from there. But for the time being, we have some A players, and we're keeping them because we're paying them well, and because it's a great place to work. We're a nice place to work. There's friendly people here. We're a little bit unique in that most blue collar companies are um, I imagine it's similar to what it would have been like working on a pirate ship. Just a lot of swearing and a lot of um, it could be foul. I mean, I experience it when I go into different vendors. Um, but around here, we're not really like that. It's we're trying to keep it family friendly in the way we speak, in the way we treat our people, the way we and the people who we hire. I mean, we don't hire based on whether you have a family or not, but we love to hire people who have families because our, you know, one of our whys, why do we do this, is to support people uh, in supporting their family and help them to experience the American dream. So,
I love that. Now, how do you know when do you know when it's time to fire someone? Is there like a specific thing that happens, like you give them X amount of chances? Like when do you know it's time?
Yeah, this has been one where I've definitely had to learn because I have waited way too long to fire people several times. Um, Part of it is a systems problem. If you don't have systems in place so that when that person is gone, it isn't, it doesn't hamstring you. If you can let someone go without it crippling you, then it's a lot easier to let them go. So I'd say the first part of it is put your systems in place, um, and try and specialize jobs. If you have one person who does too many things, then it becomes very difficult to get rid of that person. So we've definitely run into that. The other one is what I try and do now is I try and kind of get into a meditative state and imagine if this person was gone, how would I feel? Would I feel less stressed out? Would I feel like uh, all of a sudden that the naysayer in the room is gone? Would all of a sudden a whole bunch of my problems be gone because a bunch of my problems are dealing with them and their performance or them and their not showing up to work on time? But I'd say the number one indicator is if a guy has a bad attitude, if he's ungrateful and he is gossipy, fire him immediately. I've just, because of guys' technical skills, I have held on to them a bunch of times because of that. And I'm just, oh my gosh, it's such a bad idea. Guys like that are poison, and the rest of your guys hate working with them. So just no matter what the demand is, no matter what the time of the year is, you'll get more out of the guys you have. They'll make up the difference if you fire somebody who's like that. Guys who are poison in their attitude, get rid of them. It is not worth it. So I'm speaking more from bad experience than from doing it right,
I
but
feel like
we've
that's how
moved
you
in the
learn.
right direction and we're much quicker to let people go if they have the wrong attitude. And I'll say this also, if you have a strong culture and you actually stand by it, a lot of times those people will weed themselves out. So that I would say try and be strong in what you are and who you are, and some of the wrong people will leave on there.
You mentioned systems, and I hope this doesn't sound like a stupid question, but what do systems look like in your eyes? Is it an SOP on a Google Doc? Is it CRMs like Service Titan, things like that? Like, how are you actually implementing these? Because I feel like a lot of business owners get stuck, and I'm not saying I'm not included in this, but they have all the documents, they have all the SOPs and procedures. Maybe it's just floating out somewhere in the ether. How do you integrate that with your team, make sure they're um, aware of it and know how to use it? Like, what does your system look like?
Yeah, great question. I think you hit on the most important thing, which is having a good CRM to run your business through. That takes care of a ton of the systems. And I would say when you sign on with the CRM, learn what their intended flow is and then comply to that. Don't try and bend it to meet what you do. You bend to meet what that system does. Just make sure you find the right system first. Um, we also have written manuals, we have written policies, things like that. We have all of our technicians have iPads, and then all of our office staff have computers. So what we are doing is putting their manual on their iPad or on their computer. That way they always have it with them. Um, our manuals are actually pretty new. And so we're still in the phase of rolling them all out and reading through all of them and all of that. So there's people who know a lot more about that than me. So, and there's great advice on it. We're trying to follow their advice right now. But as far as the other comment I'd make on that is specializing. Have people that do very specific things. We recently split up our CSRs and dispatchers. We had a service coordinator and an installation coordinator and a sales coordinator, and they were all doing everything for their little part of their department. And so none of them were, it was very hard to replace any of them, and it was very hard to have them cover each other. Well, now we've gone to there are pure CSRs, there are pure dispatchers, there's a pure install manager or install supervisor. And so it's much simpler to keep track of what's happening where when a specific person has that job.
I like that. Um, you mentioned building out a manual I don't know how involved you are in that. I'm almost asking this selfishly. What resources are you using to construct it? And like, what is your process for building it out? How do you even know how to do that?
Yeah, good question. So we cheated a little bit in that we purchased Al Levy's 7 power contractor
You're probably in a good
basis.
spot.
So we've been taking that and editing it. I will say it is a lot of work to change it still, but it's great. It's thought provoking to know, okay, what kind of things should be in this. Um, and yeah, they're very well thought out. So that's how we've been going about it. I have been sitting down, we've just scheduled weekly. Every week we sit down, we work for minimum 1 hour on one of the manuals. And when we've been strict about that, we've made great progress. And when we've been lax about it, it just doesn't go anywhere. So I've become much more of a believer in it recently. So we've been for quite a while now doing it every single week. And all of a sudden, we're done with a couple manuals. So
What are the most
that's
important parts of building a manual, in your opinion?
what are the what parts?
M- Most important parts.
Oh, good question. Of building it, I would say having the right people there to ask the questions. So you don't need everyone there for every single manual. I think you do want to have someone, whether it's you or someone you trust, to be the person who's kind of there for every single one of them. Um, I think actually probably it's pretty important for you to be there. If it's your business, you need to be the final decision maker on these things, but you don't need to have the same people there for all of them. Have the right people there to go through it and make those decisions. I'd say that's the key thing.
Awesome. You mentioned, trying to figure out where I want to go with this now. Yeah, I feel like we went from marketing to operations to culture to branding to sales. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think we missed so far?
What did we miss so far? I would say, I mean, that anyone who's listening to this listens to podcasts, so I would say the number one thing I've learned personally is that there's so much that I don't know, but there are also so many people dying to give you the information. So listen to podcasts, read the books, go to the events. I thought that the events were a little a little uh, I don't know, extravagant. Like, do you really need to go to the events? But I'll say this: I was kind of like in the shadows for a long time. Like, I'm gonna read the books, I'll listen to the podcasts, almost like secretive. Like, I'll find out what their secrets are, and then I'll come back and implement them. But you don't have to do it that way. Sure, read on your own, do all those things on your own, but people are dying to help you and speak with you, and um, sometimes it takes a little bit of money to get access. I have found that it is 100% worth it. The amount of problems it solves, the amount of worry. I mean, it's a lot of weight on your shoulders. For me, it's a family business. Like I said, my dad was never on the business side of things. He's a technician. I will say he's got a talent for marketing. He's brilliant in that side of things, but he's not a business person. He can barely turn his computer on. So I've felt this tremendous amount of weight. Like, man, I got to carry this family business, and in years where it was hard early on, oh man, I was feeling like a big failure. Like, I'm letting everybody down. And, I went to school for this. I'm supposed to know how to do all this stuff. Well, school, I learned a very small amount of things from when I went to school. I've learned way more from the books and podcasts and people who are willing to share. And when you can pay to have access to people who know, people who have done it already, oh, completely worth it. 100% I would recommend it. We have a business coach that we work with. We're part of Home Service Freedom, and both of those things easily have paid for themselves just in having someone to go to for advice. to get ideas from a community, to get coaching specifically on how to roll out performance pay. Like I didn't come up with all these ideas on my own. I I I just have been kind of pirating. Other than the marketing stuff, we pretty much pirated everything. So I would say it's only pirating if you're stealing it, and people are giving it away for free. So go find it and be friendly and be open, and people are happy to share.
R&D, baby. Rip off and duplicate.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Um, Earlier you mentioned a book, John Wooden. What was the title?
Oh, it was John Maxwell, and it
Oh,
was
John
called
Max.
yeah, John Maxwell, and it is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Gotcha. Am I messing up the author there?
Yeah, he
So
has another one, a similar one.
Wooden on leadership. That's by John Wooden. All right. Never mind.
Yeah, there's a Maxwell one. Maxwell's he's a pretty well-known business author. I really liked his book. He has another one on the qualities of a leader, which was also very good. Definitely two I would recommend.
What other books have like changed your business, personal life, or mindset? Like, what are the most important ones that you'd recommend?
Yeah, great question. I'm gonna look at my bookshelf really quick. I wish I had something really exciting to say because mostly it's ripping off other people's. I will say Ken Goodrich wrote a book. He did a version of the E-Myth that was for HVAC contractors. That one had a few things in it for me that were really insightful. Just like I remember in there, that's where I finally saw 50% gross profit, 30% expenses, 20% net. And I was like, oh my gosh, finally I know like what should the target be? I remember that one really helped me. I love Tommy Mello's books. I really like John Maxwell. And I do find myself referring a lot of times to Good to Great. Get the right people on the bus. Uh, I'd say that's another really good one. Sorry, those are all super common
No,
ones.
I know them all, and I know I feel like the common ones are common because they're good.
Yeah, true.
And then, what's your process for reading? How often do you do it? Like, when do you do it? How do you know which book to read next?
Honestly, I kind of go in phases, um, because I'll get to this point where like there are so many things I've learned that it doesn't really help me to learn anything else until I've implemented the things that I've learned.
Yeah.
So I will sometimes I'll be like, man, okay, I'm really focused on reading. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts and learn a lot of things. But at a certain point, it's just like now I just got ideas spilling out of my ears. I just need to stop and implement. And so right now I'm kind of in one of those implementation phases. We learned a lot. We did a ton of reading and studying and asking questions about performance pay. And for the past year and a half, we've been implementing all of that. And when that's done, that's a pretty revolutionary change to a business, how you pay people. And once that's done across the board, we'll be looking at more big projects. And so I kind of go in phases.
I love that. Awesome. So we're honestly, I have no clue when we started, and I don't have a timer. But real quick, where do you want to send people? Like, your social media, or you want to send people to the company? So we'll have a page and then link everything.
Yeah, people can go to our website, lincolnheating.com. And if they want to reach out to me, I don't really have a social media presence or anything. But, if they wanted to reach out to me, they could send me an email. It's kenneth@lincolnheating.com.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kenneth.
Yeah, thanks, Will.